Hello and good morning from Vermont, and welcome to this episode of Things That Matter with Marty McNabb. So, I have the extreme pleasure of having an opportunity to connect more deeply with this woman, Noemi Beres, through a wonderful human being who I also have never met in person, named Keith McNally. And it all took place on LinkedIn. So, my new and most favorite social platform. Um, and I just love what Keith, he's the question guy. He just asks interesting, deep questions, and he's has a way of surrounding himself with some just awesome people. And so when I ended up getting to know Noemi a little bit better, because she reached out to me because she has a unique job that she'll explain later, but she ended up reaching out to me to connect me with some people she thought would be great guests on my podcast on Things That Matter. And so that's how I got to know a little bit more about what she does. And then, of course, through LinkedIn and other ways, I've gotten to know her a little bit better. And I just said, you've got to come up on my Things That Matter show. So you've just got to, because you've got stuff and you've got stories, great stuff and great stories. And so I was like, I gotta do this. And she said yes right away. And here she is to join us today. So I am excited to find out and see what you've brought to show and tell. And I am going to, let's see if I can do this. I am going to turn the stage over to you. And there, and Noemi?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, there you go. Take it
Yeah.
away. Take it
Yes.
away.
Thank you so much for having me today, Marty. It's an honor and absolute pleasure. And it was so nice to connect with you from the other side of the world. I live in Cyprus in Europe, but originally I was born and raised in Central Europe in Hungary. And I lived in different countries. I lived in Denmark, in Ireland, and then ended up in Cyprus, the island of Cyprus, and been living here for the past 13 years. And I always loved traveling. And so, because I'm a mixed media collage artist, amongst other things, this is just one of them. So I brought today one of my collages, and this is basically a mixed media collage. And in the middle, you can see a postcard, and it's the cathedral. My gosh, yeah. It's the Canterbury Cathedral in England. And I visited this place when I was 14 years old. And that was basically my first trip to by myself to another part of Europe. And it was like a language school. So I attended a language school in London. And during the day, we did our lessons. And during the afternoon, we went on these trips. So this was one of the places we visited, and it was truly amazing. And you can also see like kind of foliage on the collage, and like in different colors and different textures. And because I love fall, I love autumn, is one of my favorite seasons. And the time when we visited London and we visited the Canterbury Cathedral, that was the time. And it really impacted me and my life. And I really fell in love with the culture, with the language, with English language. And yeah, it was a great moment of my life as a 13-year-old. And so that's why I made this collage. And I think I made this about like 2 years ago or something like that, or maybe last year, I'm not sure. And so this is one of the pieces, and so I use the different colors for the foliage, and yeah, it has that kind of fall autumn vibe that I love. So that's why I brought this with me, because it always reminds me the good times, the traveling, kind of like discovering myself as a 14-year-old. And it was a magical time when I just, I opened up to the world, and it was really an eye-opening experience when I was an only child, and I always traveled with my parents, but the first time when you travel alone with other kids, it's a completely different experience. And since then, I just couldn't stop traveling, and I still love traveling. So yeah, it was a very like kind of distinctive moment, distinctive time of my life as a 14-year-old girl.
That is so beautiful. Oh, okay. Huh. I think that Zoom has made some changes that I'm not
Yes, they
familiar
did.
with. All right. So, wow. Well, needless to say, the last time I spoke with you on Zoom to learn more about your work, I noticed your work behind you. So,
Yes.
your collage work. And so, but this one, I love the colors. And of course, as I mentioned at the start of this episode, I'm in Vermont during the fall season. So, I
Oh.
have had the last couple of days I've been traveling, took my mom, my 88-year-old mom, on a foliage ride up to New Hampshire, and then got
Oh.
to go see, do some family business a couple of hours away, and got another chance to see the foliage. So that we share. But I guess the thing that I didn't see before, because I didn't see as close, is the detail of your work. So that is it's just stunning, the work that you did with that
Thank
postcard.
you.
Just wow, it's just amazing. You're like, I don't think I knew that part of it. I'm glad that that came out, that you're a mixed media artist as well. Like that's huge. That's a real huge thing.
Thank you.
So it's gorgeous, and I love the idea of what inspired you to like continue to travel, to be open to the world, to move where your heart and your family moved you. And you before we started, you spoke of traveling a fair amount with your family, with your parents, and
Yes, I did. Yeah.
yeah, and that your mom continued that for quite a while. Your parents did that
Yeah.
for a while. Um, so yeah, that love of travel and just being open to the world and what it offers. So that's what I see in your lovely messages on LinkedIn as well, is just your openness and your view and your art and music. I hear too.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I love
yes,
it.
that is wonderful. That is so wonderful. You've got a lot of play. You seem to continue to hold on to that playfulness, which is so very important. So as you know, because I prepare all my guests now with this question, is have you considered what you would like to have happen with this thing that matters to you, that represents so much of, you know, you coming into yourself and your own life and what you wanted and dreams and things like that? What do you want to have happen with this when you're dead and gone?
I have a son, and my only son, and I would love to give it to him. And it's kind of like a family heritage. And because he loves traveling as well, and obviously he was born in Hungary. Then we moved back to Cyprus with him, so it's kind of in his blood, the love of traveling and discovering the world. So I would love to give it to him, and just remember me as her mom, who did so many things, sometimes drumming, sometimes making a collage, and just dragging him along to exhibitions and music events or something like that, and just wanted to open up his curiosity and the wonder of art and music, and kind of quote unquote force him to get on the music club and doing some drumming and this or that. And now he enjoys it, because first of obviously when you have a pre-teenager, they always say, no, I don't want to do it, but like, yeah, let's try it and you might like it. And so yeah, this is kind of would be an homage to my my motherhood, who was into all creative stuff, and dragged him along with all my creative stuff. And hopefully something sticks, and he will carry it along, and to his kids as well. So maybe one day it will be in his room, and when I'm gone, he will just sitting in his office chair and remembering me. Oh yeah, mom with all her crazy creative stuff.
I love that. I love that. As I had mentioned, I had to take care of some family business yesterday, the day before, and one of the things my father passed in early 2020, and so I went back to my stepmother's home, and she said, are any of these things you want? And I didn't know about he had a bunch. There were a bunch of children's books, and I was just like, and I looked in, and there's a signature, Mr. Myers, and I was just like, what, And she said, oh, your dad didn't tell you about that, and he was a neighbor of my dad's, and he used to just invite them over, and he'd give them a book and they'd read it. They'd go back the next week. They'd have to kind of report on it or ask, talk about the book. And then he would give them another book. And so
Wow.
it was what, like you're saying, like I realized my mother is a hermit. She's very much like she doesn't like crowds. She's not particularly fond of people. So the idea of like taking me to museums or taking me out and exposing me to things didn't happen because she's that's frightening to her, I guess. There's anxiety
Right.
in
Yeah.
it. So I appreciate when I hear and I understand myself better and why I'm the way and what I've had to do to negotiate and be different than my mom. But I love when I hear parents that are exposing their kids to, and it sounds like your kids exposing you to some things too at the Comic-Con thing or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. The first time ever a
It,
Comic-Con experience, and we'll be back. Now I'm addicted. So, no,
it's
it's
great when they
fun.
expose you to things, it's like that's
Yeah.
great when there's an exchange there, like you've
Yeah.
dragged him to places, now he's doing, and that the whole point is just being open and not saying no right away and just experiencing it and then saying, oh, it's really not for me, I'm not going to do it again, but at least giving it a try.
Yeah, there's so many parents I noticed in our circles that like so many parents they just stop playing. They stop. We are just taking ourselves too seriously. And because the carnival season here is very important in Cyprus in February, early March, depends when it is. And you always dress up, and just less and less parents dress up because they're just like, oh no, and it's not for me. I'm too old for this. You're never too old to dress up. I mean, it's so much fun. And actually, I always tell my son, I wear clothes that are kind of unique, and I usually don't even have to buy, costume because my clothes are perfect for a costume.
Oh, I love that.
So
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Well, this has been such a pleasure hearing your show and tell part. And so now we know you're a mixed media artist, and I hope you will send me the information so I can put that in the show notes too.
Sure. Yes.
People can find out more about that part. But I also wanted to give you the opportunity to share how we connected and that work that you're doing, because I think that some of my listeners might be quite fascinated and interested in that service as well. So take the moment and share that.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, so I run a podcast booking agency. It's called Podcast Connections. We This is our fourth year in the business, and we help entrepreneurs and business owners to connect with quality podcast shows and help them to share their stories, share their knowledge, and help them to be better podcast guests. So basically, that's what we do. We provide them with a done-for-you service. So we organize everything, and all they have to do is just to appear on the show and be ready and share their stories. So basically, that's what we do. It's like a PR agency, but solely focusing on podcasts and podcast bookings and podcast interviews.
Very good. Yes. Yes, that was I I and it was a great experience on my side as well as a host of a podcast, working with you to book two of the people that you represent. Lovely people, by the way, and I'm looking forward to sharing their story on my podcast. I think, as I'd mentioned before, I think their episodes are coming out in December.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so very exciting, very fun women. I imagine that's because you're fun, and that I imagine you connect with other people who don't take life too seriously, are having fun and sharing their stories and doing good work. So yeah, so Noemi is phenomenal with that. On, like I said, on the host side, and we've talked about possibly once I get things a little better organized
Yeah.
here on my side, working with her to get on other people's podcasts, because needless to say, that's the way my podcast is going to grow. And it's a collaborative. That's the beauty of Noemi's message, is that this is a collaborative process, and that we all we're better together, and we can help one another promote the work that we do, the good work that we all do in the world. So I love your combinations of work and offerings, Noemi, and thank you for being here. And please, again, send the information to me to how people can find out more about that service. So that can be also in the show notes. But can you just read it out right now for people who are quick and can follow along?
Sure, yeah. So you can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm usually there. If you type my name in, it's Noemi Beres. And the website, our podcast booking agency's website is Podcast Connections in plural .co, not com. And that's our website. And if you want to see my artwork, you can visit my Instagram page. Again, this is the same, my name. And my website for my collage is noemiberes.com. So you got everything there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes. Well, I am definitely going to go check it out on Instagram right now. So,
Thank you.
yeah. So thank you so much, Noemi. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Things That Matter with Marty McNabb. I encourage you to consider the things that you surround yourself with and you adorn yourself with. And as a matter of fact, I encourage you, the next time you walk into a loved one's home, or you're even on Zoom and you're looking into their room, if they don't if they don't have a filter on or blur or whatever, but even the choices of fake backgrounds could be curious if you ask them, why did you choose that? So I encourage you to be curious about the things that you surround yourself, because these are the things that you keep, the things that matter, and the things that you'll leave behind. And they really are sort of your human museum. So consider the stories that they will tell. So thank you again, Noemi, for joining me. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode.